Welcome, everyone. It's so excited to have you all here. I'd like to start moderating panels from the very back of the room. It's for two reasons. The first is to make you all turn around and pay attention and get some blood flowing up in the brain, right? This is not a conventional setup for how these rooms are typically arranged. And the second reason is that I would actually like to start out by hearing from a couple of you of why you joined today. Why did you show up here? What are you looking to learn? Emerging technology is moving very fast, and there's a lot of complexity. So I'd love to hear from just a couple folks in the audience. What are you hoping to get out of today's discussion? We have some amazing speakers here who have joined, flew from across the country, and they're currently sitting up there, cold turkey, because they don't know what you all want to learn about. They've prepped, and they've made some really good guesses about some content to share with you all. But I want to hear from you all. What are you looking to understand more about this space? Anyone want to share? Yeah.
John Cramen, State of Mississippi, Mississippi Department of Education, CIO. We're engineering new environments. I think a lot of the research, the science side of data really begins with how we collect and manage and clean data at the state level across multiple platforms. I'd love to figure out how our cloud engineering going forward is going to help us better prepare the data that the data scientists need to make sense of what we're seeing in our classrooms, and just want to figure out how to connect the dots between those two things.
Awesome, thank you. We definitely know that we need to build better systems to manage our infrastructure, and that starts with talent, right? And that starts with students. And a lot of today's discussion is going to focus on what are the skills that students need to walk into a very fast-changing world. Thoughts here. I'll go here and then up front.
Alexa Schlechter. I'm with the College Board from Colorado, and I am leading the work within our AP program, ensuring that we have career-connected learning along with college credit and industry-recognized credentials available in high school. Our first pathway is in cybersecurity, which is something, obviously, it's a hot topic, and looking to see how we can align the trends in education and the trends in workforce into our AP coursework and really prepare students to fill the high-wage jobs that we know are coming down the pike.
Awesome. No, thank you, and thank you so much for being here, because College Board is going to be a huge part of making sure that we can modernize our curriculum so that students are ready for a very fast-changing landscape. I'm going to go up here at the front, and then I'll go the other side of the room.
Thank you. Alexa from Colorado. I'm Alexis from Colorado. Nice to meet you. Nice to have the Colorado representation. Alexis Menocala-Harrigan. I'm with ISTE. We're known as the ISTE standards is what most folks know us for. I'm really interested to hear from this panel how data science and data science as a literacy for students is also being discussed with computer science, with AI literacy. One of the things I'm struggling with is you're hearing the push from different groups to push for all of these things, but to me, they're all under the same umbrella. So how can we go from distinguishing between all three to really talking about how do we embed it into the curriculum so it's not something that's just a unique standalone subject?
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff happening in the landscape, right? It's computer science, it's data science, it's AI, it's cybersecurity, even quantum computing, I've heard. And so we know the space is changing fast. And so how can we set up a coherent vision for students as they're walking into that world? I know Tim has some slides on how they define data science in West Virginia.
Thank you. So I'm Amy Gailey. I'm a senator from North Carolina, and the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill came to the legislature in 2021. I'm an Ed Probst chair, and they begged us for a data science center addition to their curriculum, and they got it, but I still don't know what that is. And I'm really interested to know what we need to be doing in K-12 to support students so that when they get to their freshman year at Carolina, they'll be ready. And also we did one at UNC Charlotte last year. So this is a big growing area in higher ed, and I want our students to be prepared.
That's perfect. Well, thank you all so much, and thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing a little bit about what you're looking to get out of today. We're going to do our best to deliver on that and a little bit more. I'm going to start out with just giving a little bit of motivation for what data science is, and specifically I want to focus on the now part. Right, this session is called Data Science Now, and so why is it urgent, and why are we all here talking about it? First, I want to start off with a little bit more audience participation, and consider yourself warned. This is going to be a very participatory session. It's what good active learning looks like. Could you all name the top sector where you think that data skills currently appear in the economy? Discuss for like a minute or so with your seat partner. Think about your best guess for where your data skills are currently showing up. Which sector of the economy is it most frequent in? You all have any guesses?
I've already seen this couple
Yeah.
times.
You can't ruin the trick, Tim.
Exactly. That's why I'm keeping my mouth shut.
I'm curious to know the answer to this question.
What do you think?
Teaching us to get either political, medical, maybe sports.
Okay. Oh, there's the slide beam. I want to hear the good guesses. Anyone have a good guess? I want to hear some. Shout it out. What do you think the top sector is for data skills where they're showing up a lot? Information technology. Great guess, right? The tech sector. And so super interesting. We're going to come back to that, right? It covers. Yeah. I like to keep you on your toes. Other guesses? Healthcare. Great. Finance. Education. Very relevant for the group here. Anything else? Retail. Oh, I love that one. Okay, so the fun part about this quiz is that you all are right. But the ranking was really interesting. So our team worked with the Burning Glass Institute. It's an economic research firm. And we went from LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Department of Labor, SOC codes. Like we went really deep on what current job descriptions and what employers are currently asking for their students. Utilities, energy management was number 1. Manufacturing was number 2. Agriculture was number 3. Then we have information and tech up here. We have retail. Healthcare is a little bit further down. Educational services does show up. But we were a little bit shocked by this, right? Energy management, really? That's like the top sector. It's not tech. It's not like Silicon Valley. You have to do a lot of work to balance the grid, right? If you're trading oil, that's very data intensive. That's a lot of commodities and a lot of information moving about the physical material underneath. Agriculture. If you all go to the John Deere website right now, if you want to pull out your phones and go to it, it looks like John Deere has hired Steve Jobs. Because the website of John Deere today, or the website of Caterpillar, or any of the other agricultural companies, they are all now tech-enabled devices. Tractors are Internet of Things devices. Farmers are regularly using smart sensors to understand what's happening with their soil and what's happening with their crop pest challenges. Right? They use a lot of sensors to understand what's happening out in their fields because the marketplace is becoming more competitive, and it's really an imperative to get ahead. So that's the first reason this stuff is important, and why we think our students need to be prepped for it is it's moving very fast. It's jobs. Reason number 2, I'm going to skip just for time. Our team looked a little bit about what's happening internationally. We did some deep dive case studies on what our major economic peers are doing: Germany, India, China, UK, New Zealand, Australia. And I'm going to pick on one country and talk a little bit about China. Now, I'm a little bit skeptical of crazy U.S.-China power conflict narrative, but I will say that at the talent level, and if you think about the upskilling that China's doing for their students, data science or big data modeling and AI is now a required semester for all high school students in China. On the college entrance exam, the Gaokao, which is a very competitive exam that students take in order to get into the higher ed system in China, that is now a major part of the test. At the undergraduate level, the growth has been crazy. The number of undergraduate programs in data science went from 2 to 250 in 2 years. The U.S. has never reached that pace of educational program growth in higher ed institutions in particular, right, offering new programs. They are moving fast. And honestly, 5-10 years from now, China will be a large, energy independent, population trained global economy with many, many students who are digitally sophisticated. And some of those same investments have been made here in the U.S., but they aren't moving at the same pace or the same scale or the same coordination that other countries are doing this. And there's a number of examples in this case study. We're happy just to share the report after. It's not just China, it's the UK, it's Australia, it's all those other peer economies that I mentioned. Canada has trained 220,000 teachers in the past 3 years in computing and data analytics, just as another example. Okay, third one I want to jump into. And honestly, this one is the most important to me. Can you all read the titles of these 2 articles? Notice any contradictions? The amount of information that is regularly hitting our students and adults online is profound. There are a lot of misleading claims out there. There are a lot of contradictory claims out there. There are a lot of arguments made in the media that relate to claims based on data and people either interpreting or misinterpreting those claims correctly. And I think this one is also connected to AI. When I have a little bit more time if I'm presenting to a group of teachers about this stuff, I go through an exercise where I put a prompt into ChatGPT to ask ChatGPT whether wine is good for me or not. The initial answer is pretty good. It actually seems like, on first glance, seems pretty reasonable. It says, oh, well, you should drink a moderate amount, and here are some potential health benefits and some potential health issues that it might be caused by drinking. If you then dig a little bit deeper, though, and if you look into the citations and where ChatGPT is getting the information from, it links to an out-of-date Wikipedia article, a for-profit med company, and other sort of bogus health science that you discover pretty quickly that if you just do a little bit deeper digging into some of the studies that underlie it, it's totally wrong. And this is a pretty silly example, but how many of you have students who are currently going to college, or you're planning to send your students to college? Raise your hands high, right? Big chunk of the room, a lot of you are planning to send kids to college. Imagine your college student arrives on campus for the first week and has some questions about how alcohol works or how drugs work. And they show up to, they're planning to go to a party at orientation week, and they ask ChatGPT a question that's pretty high stakes about their own health. I don't want our students taking for granted what ChatGPT tells them without questioning it. I want them to dig a little bit deeper, because in any scenario when our students are entering into a very complex digital world, they need to be prepared to understand and question skeptically everything that's out there and have the tools that are empowered to do that. So that's why I think this stuff is really important. And a lot of other states agree. These are this is the map of the U.S. and all the states across the country who have started a data science or data literacy education pilot program. And I say pilot program because it's early stages right now, right? It's a couple, many states have like 10, 20 schools, 10 or 20 teachers that they've done an initial pilot with. The light orange here on the map are all the states that have done those initial pilots. The blue are states that have just added a course code or a subject code to their course catalog. The dark red are the states that have done required standards. And those are the 5 states that have now, or 6 states that have now passed standards for all students to increase the dosage of the amount of data learning that they do in the classroom. But if you looked at this map in 2019, it would have been 0 states. And so we've gone up to now 29 states as of last week who have started a data science or literacy pilot program, which we're super excited to see. But the scale has to increase, right? The majority of these places, it's a small group of students or districts that are doing this work, and we think it has to grow. And in case you want to learn more, we have given you all exclusive access, sneak peek to State of the Field report that our team recently did, where we try to assemble the amount of students who are enrolled in programs across the country, what the distribution looks like, what details of policy pilot programs that have been enacted across the country. So if you're interested in that, we can give you a look after. But instead, we have 3 amazing speakers here who are going to actually now tell you about the how. Right? I introduced the why. I told you why you need to do this pretty quickly. And I'm going to ask each of our folks representing West Virginia, Tennessee, and Utah to talk about what this looks like in practice. Why did they make the decisions to start a program in their state, and then how to get it done? Right? Because we want to be specific with policy recommendations, because this is ExcelinEd, so we're going to give you some pretty particular ideas on how to do this. So, Tim, do you want to start us off and just talk about what you all are doing in West Virginia to create the program locally?
I can do that. So my name is Tim Flatley. I am the middle and secondary mathematics coordinator at the West Virginia Department of Education, and I've done that for just over the last 3 years. Before that, I was a high school math teacher. My wife is a high school math teacher. What you need to know about me is I love math and I love teaching. So much so that my son asks us daily, our oldest son, asks, why do adults love math? Because he gets to hear about it a lot at home. So I want you, as we frame this why, data science in West Virginia, I want you to do a little activity with me, okay? I want you to picture in your mind a toddler, not yourself as a toddler, but a toddler that you know. Maybe there's toddlers around you now in some capacity. Think about a toddler. Do you have that picture in your mind? Okay. You're going to offer that toddler to pick one handful of cookies. In one hand, I need everybody to raise a hand with 5. That means you have 5 cookies in that hand. Okay? Need your other hand. You have 2 cookies in that hand. When you give that toddler that opportunity to select which number of cookies, I want you to hold that number of cookies up. Which hand is that toddler going to pick? I'm looking around the room. Some of you opted not to participate. I need to see those hands. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of fives. Well, my youngest, he's taking all 7. Okay, he's taking all 7. But what are they recognizing? Toddlers are recognizing the amount of quantity of cookies in hands in that moment. And I've been in sessions where someone has told me they've also picked 2, and I asked why. Well, that's child has identified I have 2 hands. They're doing counting cardinality right then and there. Now, my son is not going to write 5 is greater than 2 on a piece of paper. He's not going to tell me 5 is greater than 2. But he can recognize that. We have this innate mathematical ability that we're born with. Unfortunately, and I didn't know this until I started teaching, because math made sense to me. I understood mathematics. So moving forward in my career, when I started teaching math, I didn't understand there were so many children who weren't excited about math, who didn't have that experience that I had where I really enjoyed learning mathematics. So thinking about our students and thinking about what they're hearing in society, because when I tell someone, hey, I'm a teacher, they go, bless your heart. When I say I'm a math teacher, they say, I hate math, I can't do math, math is hard, I'm not a math person. We have to change that narrative, because when kids hear it, they opt out of being successful in mathematics. It gives them an option to start saying that when they hear that over and over again. So we want to create relevant, meaningful experiences for our children in our settings. Relevant, meaningful, and then applicable experiences for our children. So that's one part of what we're doing at the West Virginia Department of Education. And the other is I'm fortunate to work in a division titled Pre-K to 12, Adult Instruction and Career Engagement. So the assistant superintendent over our division stresses this to us. When children start school, we are preparing them for a job. We're preparing them for a career. So what are those skills that they need to be successful when they enter that workforce, whatever type of workforce it may be? What are the skills that they need? So those are our drivers. It comes back to those kids, those children, those students. What skills do we need to provide them, and how can we create relevant, meaningful, applicable experiences? And I'll talk more about those in a few.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Deb, you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing in Tennessee and why you started that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for being here. I'm Deborah Knoll. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of College, Career, and Technical Education at the Tennessee Department of Education. I've been at the department for almost 10 years, which is a long time when you talk about state work. But I've been able to see it really morph and become what it is today. When I first started back in 2015, we just revamped the CTE standards. We made them very rigorous, and we made them very relevant. And, when you talk about the old coined term of vo-tech ed, I know that we can all kind of picture in our mind what that looked like when we were in school. And it's very much a different experience for our students that are engaged in that content today. We ensure that their content is rigorous. We ensure it is relevant. It leads to industry credentials and post-secondary credit. And so it is very much a different world. Just for context, our CTE graduation rate, so those students who are engaged in CTE, is 99%. And the reason why is because they can make connections to the content. They can see the why behind what they are learning, and they are engaged in that in those experiences. And that is exactly what data science is going to do. So at the Department of Education, we really try and stay, like I said, very relevant. And so over the last couple of years, we have created a cybersecurity program of study. We have ensured that every student, K through 12, is engaged in computer science and made that a graduation requirement. But to Zarek's point, when you looked at that state map back in 2019, you would not have seen any states engaged. Now you're seeing these states who are engaging in the content because they see the importance of it. And so the why for me are twofold. One is our students. We want to make sure that they are prepared for the careers of tomorrow, and that includes these data science skills. When you talk about critical thinking, you talk about problem solving, these are skills looking at not just understanding the data, not just being able to look at the data, but really manipulate the data. What does that mean? What does that data mean? What is the story that it's telling? And those are critical skills that they are going to need to be both successful in their careers, or if they choose even just to go to the post-secondary, is having those conversations and engaging in that. The second piece is we know that education is workforce, right? And so our commissioner's line right now is that she wants to make sure that every student leaving their secondary experience is prepared for college and career or military experience. And it used to be college or career, right? It used to be either you're going to college or you're going right to the workforce. There was a big or in there. We are not doing that anymore. That bridge that we have right now is a capital A and D. It is definitely the words and. And I'll talk more about our process here later on, but the skills that we hear from industry over and over again, and the skills that data science allows for is revolutionary, and it is vital to the industries across all sectors. And you see that by the map with the utilities, and I'll talk more about that. So it really is preparing our students, but it's also preparing the workforce there in Tennessee. So, but again, excited to talk more about this. And engaging in this discussion.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Deb. And then, Tyler, do you want to talk a little bit about what's happening in Utah? I think because you have our teacher perspective, you can tell a little bit about like what's happening on the ground and also with the pilot that you all built in the state.
Sure. I'm Tyler Haslam. I am a high school math teacher at Granger High School in Salt Lake City, Utah. I've been teaching for a while. I lose track. Math teacher who loses track of how long he teaches is pretty pathetic. But I've done a lot of AP statistics. I've done a lot of, I coach too, and there's a lot of data analysis that goes into coaching football. One day, one of my colleagues who is currently teaching our AP stats class came over to me and said that Utah was starting a data science pilot. And I thought, this is cool. So we dove into that pretty headlong, and our school is huge. I think we're the biggest in the state as far as enrollment goes. So we have something like 3,500 kids. And so when we started offering this data science pilot, we offered it just as an option. You can take secondary Math 3 integrated, or you can take this data science class. And even though only 20% of the kids chose data science, that resulted in 7 sections of data science. So I was teaching 250 kids data science right out of the gate. And I loved it. It was a great experience for me. It was a great experience for the kids. And I think is the first time I went a whole year without a kid ever asking me, when am I ever going to need this? And that right there became a selling point for me. I am a mathematician by training. I love pure mathematics. I think math belongs in the humanities, not the sciences, because I love doing math for math's sake. But the average human being does not. And I think if we really want kids to swallow that pill of mathematics, which is we teach it because it's useful, right? We don't teach it because it's humanities. We teach it because it's a science, and we can answer problems with it. But I think to make it something that kids will swallow, you have to give them that applicability. And not saying that data science is the only way to do that, but it definitely is a very fast-track way of doing it.
Awesome. And just to repeat something that Tyler said, you teach 7 sections.
Last year was 7. This year it's only 4 because our sophomore class that was coming in is about 200 kids less. So the percent was still 20%.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very full plate, and we are very grateful that you are here. And just to draw out the theme a little bit, I want to explicate this up front. I think we see data science in a majority of the state programs that you saw up on that map. Data science has a home base in mathematics, but has extensions to other school subject areas. And this is, we talked about this morning, right? You saw Dr. Jenner talking about the initiatives in Indiana to reimagine and re-envision the high school experience for students so it's more relevant, more career connected, and more relevant for the 21st century. This is 3 examples of math in computer science in West Virginia, math in CTE in Tennessee, and math and PE, right, and sports connections for students. And it's 3 flavors of how we're trying to make mathematics more relevant for students. It also doesn't just have to start in high school. We can start building the data intuition, the probabilistic reasoning, the skepticism much earlier on. And we're working on a project right now to help think about what that whole holistic ramp looks like. And maybe on that note, Tim, I want to move to you first because I think we heard a question earlier about, well, there's computer science, there's data science, there's all these different disciplines. So could you talk and maybe actually show, and I'll give you the clicker here, a little bit about how you all went about defining this to bring all those things together in one cohesive picture?
Absolutely. So we knew that we live in a data-driven society, data-driven world. It's important for our students to be aware of the data and to understand it and interpret it, not just to be able to do it, but really, truly be citizens that are well-informed and understand that data. So we had a push for data science. And so we, at the Department of Education, got together, and I worked with my computer science colleague because we knew that we wanted data science to be related to mathematics, to have a lot of mathematics involved in it, but we also wanted that tie into computer programming and computer science. Because what we have heard a lot about data science is that what's different about data science than statistics and probability? And so we really wanted to bring computer science into the table, and through Zarek's help, this idea of multivariable experiences for students. And so we started with partnering with teachers. We gathered 6 educators from across the state of West Virginia to help write data science standards. We pulled in some of our top-level computer science educators, teachers, some of our statistics teachers that were well recommended and have done a great job in their classrooms. We had mathematics representation and experiences from those teachers as well. We also had someone who works for the June Harless Center at Marshall University who was an educator who partnered with us in that process as well. They did a fantastic job of putting a set of standards together that is an option for our students at the high school level. We also, to motivate them, to get them excited, asked a couple of professors at West Virginia University to talk about their experiences related to data science. I am not a data science expert, and it intimidates me, and I'm going to tell you that right now. It does, but I am learning a lot. And so we called on experts to come help us understand more about what data science is. And so we had some professors at West Virginia University who shared their insights with us to motivate our team of educators to create a set of standards about data science. And what we see is we see a nice overlap of mathematics, computer science, and statistics within our set of standards. And then you can see on the right-hand side of the just different buckets of what is involved in our data science standards and really what our focuses were. We call them domains, but we really focused on data exploration, data visualization, data analysis, communication of data, communication using data, and the application of data. And through that application of data, we want students to do a capstone project, a project that is about them in their communities, making sense of data in the world around them. We also have, through application, have AI and machine learning as standards with experiences where students understand how AI works, and they get that deeper experience through data science. So what also was wonderful is to partner with external organizations. So we actually reached out to Data Science for Everyone to help us with our standards and to provide feedback on the standards initially crafted by our team. And they provided us with wonderful feedback to help move our work forward and to really make the standards more robust and address what they see on a national level. And so the one thing that we were able to do recently in the state of West Virginia is currently in high school mathematics, we have 4 required math credits. 2 credits are prescribed. 2 credits are personalized. The 2 prescribed credits are either Algebra 1 and Geometry or Math 1 and Math 2. That's our local level decision from our local education agencies. And then we have the opportunities to take 2 personalized courses. And data science was approved as a math credit towards graduation as one of those personalized options. And data science doesn't just stop in math. There's a lot of mathematics and statistics involved and computer science, but there's a way to really make data cross-curricular by the projects and the educators that you're involving in the work of those students.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. And I think it is such a great way to bring math to students' personal interests, just as you mentioned, right? I think I've seen data science projects, well, and Tyler's probably going to talk about this a little bit, right, on sports scores and NBA brackets, March Madness. You could do a lot of things in music, right? There's a lot of ways to tailor this to students' personal interests so that they see their curriculum as much more relevant. So when that pill is going down, it's a lot more obvious why. Deb, do you want to talk a little bit about the process by which Tennessee is going about designing this? Because I think as Tim showed us, right, like the experts that you bring together and how you think about crafting it is really important to have a good product.
Absolutely. So you'll see the word proposed. So we do have 3 courses. We've got a Data Science 1, 2, and 3 that are going in front of our state board for final approval here on November 22nd. So the way the process works is, just like Tim, we do not work in a silo at the Department of Education. I am not a data science expert, neither are my staff. So we do really rely on educators and industry partners. And so what we did is they brought together a team of secondary math teachers, computer science teachers, but also pushed into our post-secondary partners. So University of Tennessee at Knoxville has a really strong data science program, so we brought them on board just to ensure that we have a seamless pathway for our students going from the secondary into post-secondary. So we brought in some of our post-secondary partners as well. But I think most importantly, to be very quite honest with you, was our industry partners. That's what we brought to the table to really ensure that we were capturing what they needed in their portfolios as far as like skills. What are the skills that you're looking for? What are these things that you need our students to be prepared for? And so having those conversations, bringing everybody to the table, I mean, I am a huge, I can sing to the highest mountain. I love collaboration because I know that we are stronger together. And so having that process really does solidify. So it was over a couple months. Our commissioner first charged me at the ExcelinEd conference last year. She came up to me, she was new to the department, and she said, you know what, we need to create a very rigorous and relevant data science program and study for our students. This is timely, this is what our students need, and I couldn't agree more. So the charge was, we want something different. We don't want data literacy. Like, we need something that is very much aligned with the mathematical pieces, the statistics, the probability, some of the algebra concepts as well. But we wanted to ensure that it was rigorous so that our students would be well prepared to go into both college and career upon exiting our program. So as you see, this is kind of a progression. This falls into so twofold, which is kind of an interesting thing. A couple things are happening that's very relevant. One is in the CTE world, we really pattern ourselves after advanced CTE. So you've heard about 16 career clusters. Well, they have revised those career clusters, and rightfully so, because as things change, we need to ensure that we're keeping up with industry demands and aligning ourselves appropriately. So digital technology is the old information technology, but I'll talk about something really interesting here in just a minute. So it falls underneath digital technology. The year 1 course is Computer Science Foundations, and really that is the year 1 course of all of our technology courses. And this course really could be taught down at the 8th grade level, and we encourage it to be taught down at the 8th grade level because it's giving a sampling of all of our IT kind of progressions so that students can make an informed decision as they go into that secondary space as to what they would want to pursue. So that's that first course. The Data Science 1 course really is just preparing students for those careers in data-related industries. And so things like data fundamentals, exploratory data analysis, prediction and modeling. So those are just some of the very foundational key concepts that our students will engage in. All along the way, they are building a portfolio. So as they go through the 3 courses, they're going to be building a portfolio as well. Our Data Science 2 course really prepares our students for what we call advanced roles in data science. So it's just building upon that knowledge. So stuff like statistical analysis, feature engineering, big data fundamentals. So it's just taking that next step forward. And then going into Data Science 3, which is really kind of a capstone course. And it's about advanced machine learning, natural language processing. So it's kind of like those bigger concepts that really is a stepping stone into that post-secondary space. One thing to note is we do allow for, you can see that we have a work-based learning, so we do try and intentionally make connections with industries across, because we know that data science lives in all industries, right? It's not a linear field, that it really has a place in all industries, but it's making those connections for our students so they can engage even in work-based learning. Not only that, in the state of Tennessee, we have free dual enrollment tuition for up to 10 courses. Now, it's at different levels, so it's like full tuition all the way to partial tuition, but up to 10 dual enrollment course options that they can have like articulated agreements with post-secondary partners in their area. So we do have about 18 post-secondary institutions right now that do engage in data science, that our students will then be able to have dual enrollment opportunities, whether in person or virtually as well. So a lot of different opportunities for our students. But one thing that we're going to, and I hope it's okay if I talk about it now, but after these are approved after second reading here in November, one of the future changes to policy that we want to hit upon is we absolutely wanted to count for the 4th credit of math. So in Tennessee, we require 4 credits of math, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, and then that 4th credit, there's some flexibility with that. So we want data science to be one of those flexible options. So this will allow students to be able to tap into that world to count for the graduation requirement. Not only that, we do allow for additional flexibilities in Tennessee. One is how many credits each course will count for. Dual enrollment courses, I just talked about the 10 opportunities. If they have dual data science opportunities down in our TCAT, which is our kind of our beginning technical schools, 9th and 10th graders could also tap into those as well. But the one thing I want to hit upon is with advanced CTE's new change in the career clusters, they have something called a cross-cutting sector. Data science is going to become a cross-cutting sector across all of our career clusters. And that is very, very important to understand. One is, yes, it can stand for its own program of study. 2, with this cross-cutting sector, students will be able to take something like BioSTEM, which is like our biotechnology, or our new energy program of study, which has like the nuclear energy. And you talked about utilities being the #1 piece that has a data science that's vital in that. They're able to take courses in those other programs of study and then layer a data science course on top of it and become that super concentrator in CTE. So it's allowing for that flexibility to really enhance and elevate a student's experience. And so that is really vital because we know data science is found across all industries. So to have that ability to kind of plug in, if they didn't want to do a full program of study, they could plug in that course and then have the flexibility for that course to even count as that 4th credit of math, I think is going to be vital for our students here in Tennessee.
Awesome. And I want to just quickly underscore 2 things that Deb said. I think first, do you all know about the advanced CTE work to revise the career clusters? That was like a 3-year process. It was long, right? So those are those national career clusters, right? The guide CTE programs at the state level, and that was just released 3 weeks ago. It came out pretty recently, and I think the direction of CTE is now changing in a very dramatic way because they refreshed it for the 21st century. It's not those old, not just the traditional IT pieces, but it's really moving us ahead, and I think it's a good change. The other thing I want to sing your praises a little bit because I'm just really excited about where the Tennessee program is going to land. I think you all are turbocharging what your old high school math courses might have looked like with dual enrollment opportunities, a credential that students might be able to get by the end of the course, and then they're also going to walk away with like pretty concrete, tangible digital skills, right? The relevance and the motivation for students to actually get through their math courses is now going to be so much higher because that's just a completely different frontier than we could have possibly imagined 10 years ago, right? For your grandma's Algebra 2 course, it's very different, and I think I'm really excited about where things are headed. Now, to talk about a little bit about what this looks like in practice, Tyler, I know you brought us some student work and some example projects to actually show us, what does this look like? And we've been talking at the theoretical level, right? Policy,
yeah, sure.
Systematic thing. So bring us down to what it actually looks like for students.
So first I want to just say that I actually had kids last year who would come into me and say, Mr. Haslam, I want you to see this cool project I'm working on in another class. And they would show me data that they had taken and they have applied our data analytic principles to, which, that never happens in my, algebra class. I don't get kids coming in and like, look at the polynomial I fit. So that was pretty cool to see the kids just kind of own this and take it where they wanted to take it. And we work with data every day in this class, and that data ranges from, you think of something, it's there, right? And so we have this opportunity to kind of mold the lesson to this real diverse palette of student interest. And one of my favorite things to do when I was teaching this class last year was to ask kids, like, what do you want to learn about? Like, what data do you want to look at next? So here's some data. These are pizza prices from local pizzerias, I guess you could call them, based on number of toppings and the price of the pizza. And when we first start this project out, we just basically look at, the data is very raw. It's just there. And the kids go and they make a visualization like this. And then we kind of chip away at it. And we go, well, there's obviously the relationship between toppings and price, right? So more toppings, more expensive the pizza. And so then we eventually fit a linear model that tells us, this is how much we can expect to pay for a plain cheese pizza. This is how much we can expect to pay for a pizza as we add toppings to it. It's going to increase the typical costs in this way. And then kids eventually will be like, well, what about the size of the pizza? That matters. What about the location of the pizza place? That matters. And so they start to divvy it up. And so this is an example of what one student did where they had the pizza prices. So this is a pretty, neat model because you're taking the interaction between the toppings and the pizza size, and so you're getting these 4 different linear fits. So that's just an example of something we do. This is more towards the second semester. This is something we do at the very beginning. This is my first activity, I guess the first thing you could call an activity. We do other stuff before this, but we make these catapults out of popsicle sticks. Actually, they're tongue depressors, but you can't tell kids that because they think that's gross. But you get these things and you build this little catapult, and it's kind of fun. Like the kids take their time to do that for about 20 minutes. And then we take these gummy bears and you put them on the catapult and you launch it and you see how far it'll go, right? And so the kids are in these groups and they're measuring. And I was going to get pictures of them doing this, but I didn't. But they love it. And after we get their data, we put it in a spreadsheet. And we actually use this activity to talk about the importance of tidy data, having every column represent a certain measured variable. Because the kids, when they put it in, this is the first thing we do in this class, and so it's a mess. Like you got all kinds of data all over the place. Some kids are putting it in like in an Excel spreadsheet. They're writing everything in one box, one cell, and so this kind of gives us the opportunity to talk about being organized, being on the same page. And the eventual consequence is we end up looking at, we have this little stick that goes in underneath the arm of the catapult that raises it up, that makes it more springy. And we're able to look at data like this. So you can see how adding a lift stick increases the launch distance of the gummy bear. And, the kids figure that out pretty quick. Like, as they're doing it, they see that the gummy bear is going farther when they add lift sticks. But then when we show them the data like this, it's always like an audible gasp in the classroom. We're like, wow, look at that. You can actually see, like, the histogram is shifting to the right as you go. And that's, you talk about what data science is. Data science is telling a story with data. Well, this is telling the story that if you want to launch your gummy bear farther, you add more lift sticks. And that's a pretty basic story, but it's a story that every kid can wrap their mind around. It's a story that every kid buys into. They get to eat the gummy bears too. Not the ones that hit the floor though, but some probably do, but you shouldn't. So yeah, it's a really fun class because you have applicable things like this. You get to do activities like build catapults. You get to talk about pizza. Basically, any interest a student has, you can tie it in. I really struggle teaching Math 3 now because I'm sitting there thinking like, man, today I got to teach them how to divide polynomials using long division. While I love to do that, I think it's awesome that you can take that algorithm of polynomial long division that is so, analogous to numeric long division. Like, as a mathematician, that excites me. But as a 16-year-old kid, that is not exciting. Launching gummy bears is. So, again, this is a way of getting kids to buy into this idea that math is useful for lots of stuff. And one thing that I would like to do, and I've kind of started doing that this year as I'm teaching my Math 3, is taking some of these lessons from data science and putting them into a regular algebra class like Math 3. So this year we did, in my Math 3 class, a little, I guess you could call it, making a model of how many groceries people would buy based on their income. And I stole it from Skew the Script, which is a great resource. But anyway, I feel like math needs this applicability in order for it to have meaning for kids. And so that's why I love this class.
And Tyler, just one more question. We're about to go to Q&A, so if you have things you want to ask the panel, please get those ready. Between the beginning of the school year and the end of the school year, by the time the students go through the data science course, what, if any, differences do you notice in your kids?
Well, they mature quite a bit. It's always funny to see them from beginning to end. But they appreciate math more, and I feel like they have this sense of power. Like, it's crazy to think what computer coding can do for you. Like, kids come in and they're scared of code. They're like, oh, you're not going to be able to do that. In fact, I'm pretty sure last year I had a significant number of my kids drop out of the class because they were afraid of the coding. And I would tell them every day, like, don't worry about the coding. We'll be fine. But yeah, to see the ones that stuck it out and did get through it, they do learn and they do become more powerful. And it's a neat thing as an educator to see that growth and to see kids like feel empowered by this topic, and seeing them come in with their little pet projects of, one kid, like, he was an NHL fan, and he like compiled this data on hockey players, and I'm like, well, this is cool. And didn't ask him to do it, wasn't part of a grade, he just did it because he wanted to do it. And I think that alone speaks a lot to this.
Wait, so sorry. One of your students voluntarily did more mathematics.
Yeah, one of my students voluntarily did more math homework.
That's amazing. I think it's a very good note to end the formal panel on. I'd love to hear some questions from the audience, and I can get off the table here, come to you all. What's on your mind? What didn't we address? What questions do you have for the great speakers we have? Jump down. Okay, we got questions, so I'll go over here and then back to the right. And introduce your name and where you're from.
Hey there, I'm Karen from Alabama. I heard a lot about a math mindset and how data science really seems to be helping students have a more positive concept of math. Do you find yourselves teaching that intentionally? To what extent are you teaching that more positive growth mindset for students in mathematics?
Tyler, do you want to start?
I would love to. Because the class requires a lot of coding, I had to hit that up really hard from the beginning, because coding, anyone who's done coding, it is very frustrating. I've been coding for years now, and it still drives me crazy sometimes. Like, why won't this thing work? So you definitely have to have a growth mindset, and I think, I don't know that I focused so much on the growth mindset in a math sense. I focused on the growth mindset in, we're doing this, it's okay if things don't work. And I think the coding, it kind of has that neat added effect that, you're trying to tell kids that it's okay to be wrong with your code. You can fix it, right? It's free to run code, and you figure out the error, and you find out what's wrong, and you adjust. And I think having that conversation, it kind of bleeds into their math mindset. Okay, well, I can do this hard thing because I've done that hard thing. So, it's a huge confidence boost. But I do think it is an integral part. I had a colleague who was also doing the pilot in another school, and he was less comfortable with the coding. And I remember talking to him, and he was just frazzled by it. And I think the main difference between the two courses was probably because of that growth mindset versus I need this to be right the first time. And coding is hardly ever right the first time.
Yeah, if I can just pile on, I think the other question that also comes up is, is this stuff too hard? They have to do coding and all the mathematical modeling and the synthesis work at the same time. And a way that a lot of the curriculum are designed, and Tyler's course is pretty aggressive, I think, because you have really high expectations for your students. And some of the ways that the other districts have gone about it is that it starts low and it gets the high ceiling. Right, so you start with a little bit of simple syntax, where it's one or a couple commands in a notebook. And there's different flavors out there of curriculum choices that you can have. And the other thing that just doesn't make very much sense in our current curriculum is that math and computer science and all the technology stuff totally separate They don't exist in the same realm at all, right? And that is not reflective of the real world. No one at Google is like hand calculating with a pencil mathematical procedures as they're getting ready to do the next project. And bringing that synthesis together in a unified way is where we want to see the field move. Okay, I know there's a question over here.
Thanks. I'm Adam Tyner with the Thomas B. Fordham Institute. I really appreciate what y'all are doing. I have been drinking this Kool-Aid for years. I love all of your arguments about data science. I love all this stuff. One thing I hear in other states that try to do stuff with data science is that there's quality control issues, and that it becomes something that is incoherent, it's different in different places, and that there's kind of a tracking problem where it becomes kind of a dumping ground for kids who don't want to do Algebra 2. And that Algebra 2 is hard, so they end up doing data science, and then that maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that becomes a lesser pathway. How do you protect against that? Now, you guys have talked about developing really strong standards. I think that's probably a part of it. I guess the way I think of it is like, if you're going to go to all the trouble to develop these really strong standards, why not have an aligned assessment so that you can see at the end, like, how did they do? And you can actually have a lens into that quality control, which is, that's what grounds AP. Why everybody trusts AP is good is because we got an assessment. We actually can find out. Is that part of the equation, or what am I wrong about if we're thinking that? Thanks.
Yeah, Tim, you want to start?
Great question. So we are at our very beginning stages. We have standards, and we're working on building a team. And I think, as Deb mentioned, collaboration is a huge part of that. So right now we are working on getting teachers who are interested in piloting data science so we can get them started all in the same place to try to ensure that alignment looks the same. But we're asking our local education agencies to recommend teachers who they think can help us support that data science throughout our state. We are West Virginia. We have 4 quadrants we are utilizing, and so we're looking for data science pilot experts within those quadrants that can help continue to spread that. In terms of an assessment piece, we do not have an assessment aligned. The state of West Virginia requires an 11th grade assessment only. It's a national norm assessment currently at the moment, so we don't have that component thought about or addressed.
I completely agree with what he's saying, but I think for Tennessee, one, we do have that seamless transition into post-secondary. We do have those dual enrollment opportunities that will offer those assessment type experiences for our students to ensure that they get the post-secondary credit in order to attain that. I think most importantly, I think one of our next steps after this gets approved and after we allow it to count for a 4th credit of math is to look for an industry credential that's also aligned. Like what is industry looking for as far as like preparedness beyond just our standards? What does that look like, and how can we provide that for our students?
And there are a number of credentials out there that we can help collate. I'd like to pile on. 2 more things on assessment. One, you all would be surprised to learn that the proportion of questions related to data analysis on the SAT and the ACT is over about 25% or a third now of the entire, the STEM sections of the test. That has increased over time. And so it's already assessed, and students, we actually have a report out that shows that they've not been doing well in that portion because it's not often emphasized in the curriculum. Second thing I want to say is our College Board rep still here? Let's talk after. Okay, other questions? Okay, we've got a few. I know I saw, okay, I'm going to go do like a swing around the room, and then we have a couple minutes left, 5 minutes left? Okay. We'll go.
I know time is limited. I've got 2 questions, one unfriendly, one friendly. Which one do you guys want?
Let's do the unfriendly one first.
The unfriendly one? Okay, one unfriendly question. So going back to the question off the assessment piece. Hey, Kim, how you doing? Is how on earth do you know this is going to work? I've been doing education policy and whatever work state level for 25 years almost, nearly. And I get these really exciting programs, these really exciting ideas, and we go gung-ho. And then some poor schlub like me, 5 years from now, is going to get asked the question, did it work? And I'm like, I would have loved to have been at the table 5 years ago when you designed this to start building the data collections, to start understanding, forget assessment, just what are the inputs that you need and what are the outputs you expect and what's the result. And you're from Tennessee, if VJ has not been at the table on how to figure out 3 years from now whether that's working or not, or you missed an opportunity, right? Or if Aaron is not at the table in Utah, Aaron Burrow, the department in Utah, you're missing something. So I just want to make sure we're not just getting excited, racing to the finish line, putting these programs in place, scaling it up, and then okay, what the hell happened? And we've lost on fidelity, we've lost on effectiveness, we've lost on results, we put a bunch of money in, and then you start losing support from legislators from North Carolina who said, I don't know what this is, but I funded it, and then 3 years from now she's like, we did it work, and you're like, I don't know, and she's going to say, well, your funding's gone.
It may just thank you. Good stretch. Just to recast your question, so it's how do you not move too fast, right? And how do you do this carefully? Thoughts from the panel?
Yeah, I think, we do have the ability to pivot. These will be passed, these will be available for students in 2025. We need to ensure that our teachers are prepared, so there'll be professional development around that, our math teachers, things like that. But I think it's also just having the conversations, bringing industry, bringing post-secondary partners to the table to make sure that we are aligned. When we talk about the experiences for our students, it's not just a course, it's not just a course code. It's the work-based learning. How are they connecting with our industry? It's those dual enrollment opportunities. It's those industry credential pieces. There's much more to the puzzle than just those course standards. There's other places that could really assess, is it working or is it not? How do we need to pivot? But it's having those collaborative opportunities throughout and continue to have those opportunities as we go through this to ensure that we're always on the same page. And we do the same thing for all of our CTE courses, whether it be cybersecurity or advanced manufacturing. We're having those conversations all the time with industry, post-secondary, to ensure we're rigorous, we're relevant, we're providing opportunities for our students.
And then the one thing I'll add really quick, the first NSF grant program that supported a high school data science course, can anyone guess the year? It was 2013. So we've had about 10 years of R&D to start designing curriculum and course lesson plans and age-appropriate classroom software to build out supports to make this successful. Because I think the risk about AI education right now, right, where that is even double the speed the data science is moving, and we're trying to think about how can we make sure we do it all at once, carefully, unified, building on all that NSF research that has been funded for about a decade now. And so I think we're at a good point where we need to do more work to make sure the quality is there, and we need to build an assessment, for instance, that's valid and standardized across the country. But I think it's the right time to be in this pilot mode at the state level. But really thoughtful question. I'm going to.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Paula White from New Jersey. And I was wondering about sort of public awareness efforts, if any, that, you all have either participated in or spearheaded in your state. I mean, I think when you talk about policy, which is, where I live, it's that notion, do parents know when they hear data science, what does that mean? Or, there was a while when nobody knew what coding was, and then there was a point where it's I want my kid to code because coding is the future, or whatever it was that they perceived. And so I'm just wondering about any efforts around sort of public awareness, whether for parents, families, just the community at large, and where you've seen successes, if at all.
So right now we are actually thinking through that and what that looks like. So just providing some context around what data literacy is versus data science and trying to make sure that we internally have the messaging appropriate and going through the appropriate channels to then start really pushing this out in our communities and then have a plan in place to help support that messaging. So for us, it's currently a work in progress, but one that we're aware of. So thank you very much for bringing that up, because that really has to be intentional. And so I get to hear. I heard Jimmy Casas speak. Sometimes he talks about the 5 pillars of leadership, and his first one is slow down. Sometimes I'm somebody who wants to sprint and get things done, but this has helped me. A few of the messages and questions that you've asked, just to really take a minute, slow down. Let's think about all the other people who need to be at the table and consider what we can do to help support them and build this understanding of data science.
Yeah.
Last word.
Yeah, to go on that, we have found that our parents need to be heavily involved in their students' education. So we bring them to the TCAP facilities a lot of times and let them engage in what do these programs look like, the hands-on pieces of that. Data science will become part of that as well. So as we have these conversations, bring them into the schools, bring them into our TCATs, our community colleges, and have them experience what data science really means in that real-world application, I think is vital.
And the final note that I'll just say is that if you have caregivers or parents who are worried about automation and what their kids are going to be graduating into 10, 20 years from now, this is a great answer. Super concrete skills that is at the fundamental components of how AI works This is going to help them transfer and generalize across jobs, no matter what sector industry they land in. I think that's a really great note to end on. I know we didn't quite get to all the questions, so I know these folks are going to probably stick around if you all want to come up and ask individually, because I want to get invited back next year. I heard applause in the other room, so we're going to have to end the session now. But thank you so much for being here. We're so grateful for these really thoughtful questions and for you all taking a gander at these new programs. I hope we can help you bring this stuff to your state.